Yes, I'm Arthur L. Hunt Jr. I'm here at the College of Aspiring Artists. We're about to go into the studio. We're focused on the GDI movement. This is a movement from our college, and we are saying GDI, God damn it, to the 7 things that God hates. Today we're going to be featuring a special new movement partner, Black Innocence. Michael Williams, he's heading up the Black Innocence, a sample conversation. Going to hear what he's been doing and what he's working on and how you can be plugged in. For now, go to GDI.today, the GDI movement. Stay tuned. You're going to hear more and you'll see more in the coming days.
All right, we're live once again with the College of Aspiring Artists broadcast. It's TCAA Presents. It's brought to you by the College of Aspiring Artists. TimeToConsider.org, live on JoyNet Radio at JoyNetRadio.com. With us now is our host and visionary for it all, Arthur Hunt. Good morning, sir.
It is a beautiful day, and we are Juneteenth extended. We got a lot going on, social media lives from our various social media platforms, JoyNetRadio.com, TimeToConsider.org, and GDI.today. Yeah, you're going to hear a lot more about GDI. What does that stand for? Well, I'm going to tell you straight off. G stands for God, D stands for them, and I stands for it. Well, what is it that God damns? We'll go to the site, you'll find out, and you'll know how you can be a part of the movement. Got a special guest in today that's going to talk about the movement. Yeah, the movement isn't new, but it does have some stimulus attributes that we're going to be plugging you into on today. The College of Aspiring Artists is in the Soma district. Soma is south on Main. And I do want to give shout out, JC, to the great Soma team that was with us last week. Elizabeth, Michael, Grace was here from Pink Olive, and we had a spectacular broadcast on what's happening in Soma. Soma is between 12th Street and also extended to 27th Street on South Main. There are a lot of enterprises. There are a diverse group of persons, businesses who are pursuing their success in what they create, market, and promote and produce. And we're just in the Soma, South on Main, Kindred Bond. Got a lot of things going on, and we'll want you to come down. I have a couple of gift cards I'm going to give out today from the Pink Olive. You can check in with us from time to time. I'll give you a couple of opportunities on how you can win the $5, what we call the Olive Buck. You get $5 off. It's a beautiful store. It has merchandise from greeting cards, candles, some dainty food items. Oh, it's a coffee shop built there, and lots of good things. And that's downstairs here at 1501 South Main. So we started off with the College of Aspiring Artists presents the business of you. And that's what everybody who has a dream or vision, you want to build your brand. In today's marketplace, people are saying, and we're going to get commentary on it, that people don't want to work. I disagree. People want to work. They may not want to work in the conditions, the environment, certainly pre-pandemic. There are a lot of people today who are innovative and creative, and when we talk about the creative economy, we talk about economic development with the creative enterprises. We've done a study, that was a study from 2006 to 2009 that we were a part of, the creative economy, led by the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation and Arts and Sciences, 2-year community colleges. We found out a lot of things about creativity in Arkansas. And one of the things that we turned out was it's good to be bivocational, maybe even trivocational. Now, what is trivocational? Well, that's understanding that sometime God will want use of your divinity, your spiritual voice, your spiritual mind, so that you can speak on behalf of God. And you can express from biblical sources what is God saying through the creative economy. That could be a book, that could be a song, that could be messages, it could be multiple things. And then the bivocational, traditional courses and pathways from being a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, an engineer, many traditional platforms. But the creative economy says you don't have to stay there. You can write a book. And what a segue. I want to welcome to the show our great guest for today, Mr. Michael Williams. And I'm holding up a book, Black Innocence, a sample conversation. Good morning, good day, as the show is morning and parted throughout a timeline. How are you, Mr. Michael? Welcome to the show.
Well, good morning, and I really appreciate you having me on this morning. I'm hearing you speak about what you got going on over here, and it just thrills me to know that we've got such innovative minds still interested in developing and growing and being a positive asset to our community. So thank you for what you're doing over here this morning, brother.
Well, we thank you because you are making strong deposits into the creative economy. And the creative economy I derive is the creator's economy. And so in his image, if he, God, being creative, made us in his image, and he doesn't change, then that means there's creativity coming from those who are yielded and willing to be in use. So you've got some things that I want to share with the audience today, but let's just start off. Who is Michael Williams?
Michael Williams is just a common guy, nothing special, nothing exceptional, but a guy that's always been engaged in wanting to see and do his part and help grow and develop a set of people. Obviously, I was exposed to and recognized early on that I can be a contributor, a positive contributor to society, and so I tried to find my place, just like everybody else. We knock on a few doors here and then, eventually, something will open up.
Yeah.
And so, something has opened up.
Well, I'm glad that it's open, and we want it to be an open season for many reasons. As we dissect and unveil this wonderful story of your life. When you read this, it's like a conversation, really,
Right.
as you described. It's a conversation about you, and you're interacting with time prior to you coming into the earthen vessel. You have some, we're going to go through it, but let's talk a little bit more about you and your book and the chapters that are just outlined. You are really strong in pronouncing the movement.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, as I look at the introduction and you talk about who you are, and I just went through this life moment. And you got so many things that are sometimes unique to others. Growing up in poverty and not letting poverty grow up in you. You've got things that familiar with the time of desegregation, going into the schools that were different from where you once were being educated. So I just want you to walk us through, and we'll start with the title. So when a person looks at this book and how you laid it out, Black Innocence.
Yeah.
A sample conversation. But I stopped with Black Innocence as a first part of the title. What does that mean?
So there's a couple of things I want you to recognize in that title. When I came up with it, obviously I just began to express myself. And I actually had a different title, but as I went on in the conversation, I realized that it was bigger than what I had on the cover initially. So when with the Black Innocence, I said, you know, we're innocent people. We are innocent people until something comes into our lives to change that. And so as I was writing or, you know, charting this course, it just came to fruition that that's what it should be. You should know who we are. I'll get a little bit ahead of myself.
No, you're good.
With the second publication. There is a second publication coming out that kind of aligns with this. There's actually 3 parts here. The second publication, or the third publication, is Black Innocence 2, which is consciously you know me, unconsciously you treat me, and it's being published and should be out shortly as well. The second phase of that is the Black Innocence Project, and what the Black Innocence Project is just kind of workbook. It's a module to Black Innocence, and it has 5 parts in it, just like the book has, and each book is a training module. So we'll kind of cover off on that a little bit more as we go. But as I walk through there, you know, always something happens to move you, to cause you to do the things that you do. Whether it be good or whether it not be good, something happens to trigger that. And I believe everything happens for a reason. And I said earlier on with some other folks that I was speaking with that when George Floyd was killed, that became an inspiration to me to speak. No longer could I sit in my chair, no longer could I walk the paths that I walked and be silent.
And you took that same 8 minute and 40.
It was 8 minutes, 46 seconds initially, yeah.
And you relived it.
I stood there.
And you talk about it in the book.
I talk about it.
So now, share that with the audience. This was a trigger moment for you.
It was a trigger moment, and what it caused me to do was just take a step back in time, and just walk up to standing there and watching that and seeing that, you know, over the years, the many years that I've been on earth, that a life, a black life, a black man, even today continues to face these adversities. And so I just wanted to talk about it. And so what I tried to do was understand, why is that? Why is he the chosen person, or why are we the chosen people for this type of behavior? Obviously, the devil, it's evil, I get it. But by knowing that, we need to know that, and we need to be able to recognize those evils when they come our way. And so I specifically focused in on what I knew, what I had been exposed to over the years. I tried to break that out and walk through what you see there.
So in your intro, you talk about the plight of the African American man, male. And of course, George Floyd fits that profile. And go out a little further in the book and talk about how you had some similar profile.
Correct.
As you and your boys went through the neighborhood.
Yeah, but it actually happened prior to that. You know, I grew up in another city, where I was born in another city and relocated here as a child. And prior to coming here, I had gone to a school where it was only us. There was no other race of people. And so when I got here, I had to integrate. I had to ride a school bus to school. And I had to be in a classroom where there was just one other African American male in that classroom, and that was very challenging. And so I didn't realize or understand, because it's not, you know, how we're raised. People are people, no matter the color of their skin, as children are raised. But I experienced an encounter in the 6th grade to make me realize.
This is your trophy moment?
It's my trophy moment.
Okay.
You
Talk about that.
So you gotta understand. So I grew up in poverty, lived in the project, right? And we had whatever we had. We didn't know we were poor. It was just, you know, who we were. So I had participated in a basketball skills competition,
Yes, sir.
and I won first place.
That's a big to do.
Right? Had never won a trophy before in my life. I hadn't even participated, but the first contest I was in, I won first place trophy. Now back then we were show and tell at school. So I made myself a little bit, right? But we were show and tell at school, so I took the trophy to school to
Show and tell.
To show and tell. And I had a classmate, you know, the envious or whatever it may have been, to knock it off the teacher's desk and be broken.
He said, I'm not only going to show and tell, I'm going to beat you and tell.
Right.
In the sense of that irritation.
Correct.
So talk about it.
So we you know, you know, so you learn stuff over time, right? My first reaction was, I got to deal with you for breaking my trophy, you know, and I did that. But as time progressed through that particular school year, I struggled with the educator, who just happened to be a white female.
Mm-hmm.
And I would share that with my mother. And so eventually the principal got involved. It's in the book, and dealt with that educator, and I went on to have a productive learning experience, the violence of that school.
You're listening to Michael Williams. He's the author of Black Innocence, a sample conversation. You are deep into this movement, and you gave an overview of this being the first of your conversation, and then you got some other things in the works, including another part 2, Black Excellence, a sample conversation 2.
Yes, it's Black Innocence 2.
And then you just,
Consciously, you know,
all right,
unconsciously you treat me.
all right, that's taking it further. And then we'll talk about the project that you're going to be bringing into a conversation that's modules and workbook and interactive. We're looking forward to all of that. Sticking with this, I'll call it first base.
Okay.
Because you're going to get home runs and more home runs, but the first base, Black Innocence. That part of the title, and I know the sample conversation, but how true is a Black innocence in the world today? Because the stereotypes, I'm just talking from my perspective, and everybody who gets this book, and we'll give you details on how you can do it. I think it's profound to say Black innocence. And I think when we grow up in a world, we should have that as a privilege without all the stereotypes and prejudice attributes that are brought into labeling us. Can we really get to a place in 2023 and beyond where there is a Black innocence? You know, people say, I don't see color. Well, unless you're blind, you have to see color.
Yeah, so to your point, to your question, yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
And I tell you why I believe that, because there's a thing called hope. Hope is the substance, according to the scriptures, hope is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can put in the energy, the effort, we're taking baby steps all over again. You know, you got to understand. Let me go back. Let me talk a little bit about this movie.
Okay.
So I took it from the perspective of when I witnessed that. I don't know what came across me, but when I witnessed the death of George Floyd, I just started to go back in time, even to the boat when we were brought here to this country, and the mentality of those that transported us here, and the mentality of those that dealt with us at that point in time, even to now, right? I shared some information on yesterday during Juneteenth activity, and I just went back and told them, you know, we're celebrating Juneteenth. And Juneteenth seems like a long time ago. It was only 158 years ago. I was born 96 years after the proclamation was signed. My mother was born 73 years after it was signed. My grandfather was born 43 years. My great-grandfather was born 6 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. What's so interesting is my great-grandfather And my great-grandfather owned my great-grandmother. And so my great-grandfather is a white man. And so as I think about how they had a stronghold on our people and how they enslaved us to a mentality, and they use some material that's out there that people, call a myth in the lynch theory, right? And they make
And
it up.
that's in your book. You
Yeah.
outlined it. And the genealogy you're talking about, not a lot of people trace their family tree to know as much as you know about your family. Why was it so important, or why is it so important that you bring that genealogy to the forefront?
Because you have to understand, if things change, when did they change? Why did things exist? The existence of the movement, as I've stated in the first chapter, was based on the theory of the making of a slave. So what I'm talking about here is a mental capacity. The book is based on a mentality. And so as we're exposed to the conversation, what I'm trying to do is use the book as a self-help educational type tool. We trying to understand why we had 12 killings over the weekend in cities throughout this country of people, young people that look like us. It's a mentality. So in that journey, with the lynch theory, by the way, which is just multiple letters, it wasn't a single letter, but then to make it up slave, it was about, hey, let's control a mindset. And so we can do that. If I've got control over your mind, then I can control your destiny. And that's what the movement is all about. So what is a movement, right? And how does it begin and end? Who are the players? What are their roles? Who is the movement for? When is the movement, right? These are questions that begin to flood your mind when you start to hear and talk about a movement. So I don't want to read all of the book and give you all of the insights,
but that's a good overview. I have a proverb: don't jump in the middle, start from the beginning, stay to the end. And I think your title speaks to starting from the beginning. In the beginning, we all came into the world that God created. And we're all going to leave this world. So what do we do? You talk about the dash, from the time we're born to the time we die, to fight for the innocence that really should be reflected every day. There's a lot of contamination that has us in this profiling, labeling, stereotyping. I think it's noteworthy to have the cause to say to Arkansans across America that there is an innocence that is available, and we need to peel back and tear down. So the movement, when we were growing up, sometimes somebody would go to the mother and say, "Mama, I haven't had a movement in a while." And movement. And that was referring to constipation.
Correct.
And so one of the ways I like to look at movement in that context is sometimes things have just been clogged and stopped up. And I think your book is a laxative. I think it's something that it can help people get cleansed. And you talk about that. So you're talking about a movement in 2023. And I want to say this to those who are listening today and who are listening to podcasts and on the YouTube channel. Sir Michael, we need a movement. We need a movement in a great and almost a desperate way. How does Black Innocence, a sample conversation, and you talk about the movement that you are engaging, let's get people lined up and connected.
Yeah, so here's where we are. We allow the infancy stages of the movement. I say infancy, right? Because we've got opportunity. We've allowed the infancy stages of that mentality to affect us to the point of where we are today of not knowing who we
When you
are.
said empathy, what period are you?
I'm talking about from the beginning of the mentality of slavery,
Okay.
right, and to condition the mindset. We, believe it or not, we're beyond that theory, but we just don't know it. Let me clarify. If we're at odds, mankind in general, not so much as black people versus white people, but mankind are at odds. And of course, it's, wars have been wars, and the Bible speaks of continue to be wars. But I'm talking about a societal significance here in America, right? We're beyond. We can change things by doing exactly what we're doing, by having these conversations. The movement starts with understanding what's happening. And once you understand what's happening, the movement is the self-awareness aspect of where we are. And so once we understand, once we are aware of the climate that we're in, the differences that we have, the things that we can do that can improve the quality of life and the communication and be the people that God would have us to be at the end of the day, it all starts with knowing from the beginning. And then, and once you realize that, you get to a point where, okay, let's kind of start to use the laxative per your example there, right? It doesn't happen immediately. Once you take in what's necessary to release the pressure, then you get to start to get move forward, understanding the awareness of where you are. Then you get through your experiences as to why things are clogged up. And once you understand, okay, so how have I contributed? What can I do at this point to help free the flow of the mentality that has had us, and it does have us bogged down? And what happens at that point is that's where it gets complicated.
So this is a good place for us to maybe do a little more dissecting, because I did use laxative. Sometimes we need an enema.
Yeah.
Because it's one day beyond Juneteenth. And here's the billion-dollar question. What did we do in Arkansas and across America to make a movement June 2023 clear and demonstrable? I'm not talking about singing and dancing. I'm not talking about all the vendor booths and all that. But where is the movement? I mean, we could celebrate freedom from the Emancipation Proclamation. But I'm concerned, and I want you to add your voice, I'm concerned that we celebrate, but we're not activated.
Correct.
Am I close to where the movement principle is needing to be?
Oh, you're spot on.
Okay.
Right? Because we have these feel-good moments, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because we do need to be educated. We do need to know what's happening.
We've got a call, and this show,
So thank you, Andrew. Thanks for the feedback. I really appreciate your support and recognizing where I am with this piece of literature. So the conversation without reservation. So I personally had an experience with the organization that I work for, corporation that I work for. When George Floyd happened, they paused for a minute to recognize on a national level the intensity of where we are, well, where we were at that time, or still where we are as a people, and it allowed us a platform to speak. And as I listened to others speak, it went from the point of concern in regards to the death and how it impacted us as a people to more of a graciousness for having the opportunity to do it. And I felt like that was not the time to express that feeling. Not to say that the feeling isn't warranted, it wasn't warranted, but so I chimed in as they prepared to move the agenda and asked for the floor, and the vice president of the company gave me the floor. And I just expressed that I wasn't looking at it the same set of lenses.
How did that go?
And so it went over extremely well. It went over so well that they ended the call. But not in a bad way.
Yeah.
And so what happened, I mean, you can literally hear a pin drop after I continued to say what it was that I wanted to say. But I took the opportunity, here's where I am. I took the opportunity to walk into that door when they opened it up. It didn't matter.
No reservation.
No reservations at all. You asked me, so I want you to know. So I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. So after that, they began specialized training.
That's a movement.
That's a movement. And at the end of that year, I was awarded a national award from the company. So
Really look close into how this movement is going to actually change and transform the culture. What do you prescribe to in your advocacy that we can share with the audience as they listen? And then we're going to chime in with the GDI movement. I think the movements are integrated, and we need to see ourselves as a one united force. And let's specify what you see coming from Black Innocence, a sample conversation. Let's just go, this is the ending of the first half of the year. Let's look at the second half of the year, July through December. Just paint a picture as to what you are going to be doing, and then we can see how the audience and all of us can plug in.
sure, absolutely. So there's and there'll be more to come on it. I actually got about 3 activities that's going to be taking place for the balance of the year. Probably 2 of which will happen before September. So I'll be sharing that information out. But those are opportunities to get out and have these type of conversations and to show how this movement, how it's impacting our lives in general. And we'll break down and get a little bit more granular in what that looks like. Regards to, we'll be talking about mental health and how we're impacted by that. We always talk about the socio-economic factors that are out there, but we're going to get a little bit deeper. That's a term, mental health, that I think maybe tossed around kind of loosely, for a little bit too much. It's real. I do get that. I do understand that. We believe it. But I think that everything is branded like that stereotyping that we have been labeled with over the years, and that's kind of what movement talks about, and those stereotypes and those biases that exist. So far, we'll be coming up talking about some of these things a little bit deeper, get closer to home, and help people understand how that mentality resonates in those type of areas as well. So we're looking at one of my initial focuses is to, and we spoke about it a little bit, is trying to get the corporate structure to see how they fit into this equation, and they play a part as well. I was in conversation, I'll be brief, but I was in conversation with him over the weekend, millionaire. We were sitting at a table, at the dinner table, when we were having this very conversation. And one of the things that was brought up was the $150,000 employee. He's got to be pretty high up when it comes to us. Older people, young people, they won't take money, and they won't go to work unless they receive due compensation on the front end anymore, and rightfully so. But the question was, how do you get that 150 person to the 300,000? And he's got the credentials, he's got the PhDs, he's got the law degrees, he's got all of that. I said, they don't move them. The corporate world does not move them. It's not that they're not there, it's that they don't move them, right? But they bring LaJohnny in at 300, because of the relationships, And here's where I think this is where we lose a lot of our ground, is we don't formalize those perfect relationships. Sometimes we get stuck you know, to a fault of our own, and we don't formalize those relationships along the way to help position us. And it's all internal. They're not all internal. They're internal or external. You got to understand where you are, and that's what we talk about here. Some of the things that create the demise for us when we can't get to where we want to be is we continue to lick our wounds. We won't let the healing begin. We find ways and reasons not to, but if we keep the movement pushed out there and say, hey, Mr. CEO, right? If you want to, it's all about the return on your investment when we start talking about corporate structure. Here's how you can change some things to improve your corporate by infusing, right, people where they need to be. People, right? People. There's a lot more that you
Oh,
can do.
it's loaded. This is the book, Black Innocence, a sample conversation. You've got 5 chapters: the movement, the experience, challenge, the change, the resolution. We've got to keep this movement strong. We're going to look forward to getting you back, talking about those 2 or 3 things. Go ahead.
Yeah, so one thing on the last chapter, the resolution, you know, once you walk through this journey, it's a roller coaster, I can tell you.
Mm-hmm.
When you read it, it's going to, you're going to get, emotions will flare, you know, good, bad, happy, sad. When you get to the end of it, you're going to be talking about the individual resolve, the resolution. We don't have a solution to it, but it's an individual resolve, and that's what the chapter, the resolution is on. And once you get to that point and you will want to find your place. And again, that's where we have to be. If I'm in a position, we get put in positions to do things. We get in positions for a reason. I got in a position to be in my seat for a reason so that I could get that opportunity, if it existed, to say what I needed to say, to change some things. And that's what we have to do. It's an individual resolve. We've got to figure out how to navigate our way through this.
Well, I want to commend you, and I think that our synergy and our collective collaboration is going to move people from, sometimes we want it done based on desirability, but sometimes we have to get it done based on force. And that's when we stand together as a mighty unit of oneness. Unity is powerful. So we have a mighty movement forum that we've done before, where different movements come in and we talk about how each movement is a contributor to the total sum movement. And this is the movement of God to set his people free and to make sure that we don't stop until we are looked at in our innocence, as everyone should be, and that we're working together to get a resolve and to transform lives. So I want to give you the final thoughts today, and from your movement, and then we're going to close with some things that we hope we can challenge the audience. Tell us how you can get to your book, how you can purchase the book, how you can order the book. How do people get close to you and your work?
Sure. The book's on Amazon. You'll be able to retrieve it from there. You can actually email me if you want to talk about it a little bit, or I can give you some other options on kind of getting a copy of the book. Mm-hmm. It's at blittere79@gmail.com. It's B Literature, which stands for Black Literature, at gmail.com, and we can collaborate on that as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, we want to add our voice to what you're doing. We are working on multiple strategies to get the My Movement Forum and the various movements in a positive flow. So we're going to look forward to having Michael Williams Sr. back to talk more about Black Innocence, a sample conversation. I'm going to invite you to go to GDI, Dr. Day. That's God damn it, Dr. Day. Yep, it's not. I'm not cussing. No, and I'm trying to make sure nobody else is cussing. But there are things that God hates, and I can tell you as I read your book, and we see how we have become constipated and over convoluted. We're going to break through I'll yield again with this scripture that you gave a reference to, hope. And the scripture in Romans 8:24 says we are saved by hope. But hope that is seen is not hope. For what a man seeth, why does he get hopeful? But if we hope for that which we see not, then do we with patience wait for it. And patience has a virtue that is on a timer. You can't just be patient forever. Let patience have a perfect work, and know the difference between exercising patience and tolerating foolishness. It's a fine line. Mr. Williams, it's been great having you. We'll be listening more about what you're doing. Those who are listening from the podcast and the rebroadcast on YouTube, put your commentary, subscribe, and you can donate to our cause whenever you can. Thanks a lot, JC.
Well, thank you, sir. That's it for this edition of the College of Aspiring Artists broadcast. We certainly appreciate your presence and all that you have done to participate. Make sure to reach out to our author and make sure to get that information and make yourself engaged in that process. Make sure to join us next time for the TCA broadcast. It's all brought to you by the College of Aspiring Artists.